I'm Vanessa Bertozzi here with the Local Champions Program. And today I'm really going to do pretty much a walkthrough for Google Drive. It's an introduction. We're going to learn about how to stay organized when you're working with your task force on your climate smart work or clean energy work. There's going to, so many documents will be flying around. You want to have an organized way to keep track of them, centralized place. So if you like, what I suggest is that everybody signs into their own Gmail account. And what I suggest is you have, I'm going to share my screen, but put that on one side of your browser on your desktop, and then have your browser window with your Gmail on the other half of your screen. And then you can kind of split screen follow along as I do this, which is always, good for the muscle memory. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you guys open up your Gmail in whatever web browser you use. Okay. All right, so here we go with our little Drive tutorial. I'm really just going to walk you through how you're going to navigate around and get started with Google Drive. This is supposed to be very much beginners. So typically, we all have Gmail accounts. Google Drive, again, is like another Google product. If you're here, I usually have my, my email inbox open all day, every day. You want to get to your Google Drive, you can, of course, have, save it as a bookmark in your browser, but I like to just click on the little grid of dots here. That opens up all these other Google products, all these other tools, and Drive is one of them. So that's kind of a shortcut to open up your Drive. And so what is Google Drive? You can think of Google Drive as basically your hard drive, but up in the cloud, up in the ether, where everything is backed up and saved to the cloud. So the point here in using it is being able to always have that backup in the cloud that's accessible from any of your devices. So you could also get Google Drive for your phone if you have a smartphone. There's an app, so no matter where you are, which device you're on, you can get access to your documents through the Google Drive application. And so within Google Drive, there are applications that most commonly, these are the most common four that we use. Google Docs is basically Google's answer to Microsoft Word. Sheets is like Excel. Slides is like PowerPoint, and then there's Google Forms, which is also really helpful if you need to do a survey or something like that. Today, I'm going to show you how to get organized with your files, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of Google Docs and Google Sheets. If we have time, I can get into Google Slides and Google Forms. But I don't want to overload you, so we're just going to start with the basics, okay? All right, so here you are. This is kind of like your home Google Drive. You can press this to get different layouts, kind of different visualizations of all your documents and folders. One is like a list form, which you see here, and then the other is just more like a stacked grid of all your folders. So the thing is, y'all are going to be working with your task forces, right? And when you're working with a team, back in the olden days before Google Drive, you would have this issue of folks emailing around an attachment of a Word document and then making some changes, emailing it back to the group. Somebody else has also made changes to that Word doc and emailed back a different version. So you start having this problem of like different versions of a working document flying around. Nobody knows which is the latest, which is the greatest. And then on top of that issue, sometimes if you're working with a team of volunteers, say somebody has an accident or has to go off and disappear, but the latest version of the document is on their hard drive and you have no access to it. What we're doing here is creating a centralized repository where everything is stored across, your whole team can have access to it. And then furthermore, when we work on documents, we can be working and collaborating on the document simultaneously. And I'm gonna walk you through how we're gonna do that. Okay, so here what I'm gonna do is show you how to get started with it. First, let's start talking about being organized, right? Again, you're working across a team. You have to have a very clear, structured way to organize all of these files so that it's clear to your team where things are going to live. So you have over here on the left-hand menu bar, you have My Drive, Shared Drives, Shared with Me, Computers. Let's the shared drive sounds really cool, and I think you actually have to pay for that. I think that's like a premium feature. So we're just going to stick to My Drive, which is just as well and good. So if you're here in My Drive, it's highlighted blue. What you're going to do is create a new folder. And for those of you who are following along, I want you to go ahead and do this. So click New Folder and call it, you know, CSC Task Force Work or something like that. And click Create. And then you're going to see that highlighted in blue. Okay, so once you've got this folder, you highlight it by clicking on it. It's blue. Just FYI, it's kind of similar to if you have a folder on your desktop, you just double click it to open it, okay? So here's the view of what it looks like if you're in an empty folder. The prompt is to drop files here, okay? Or use the new button. So there's two ways to add things. You can either drag and drop documents from your desktop or from your, you know, from browsing in your computer, like you can drag and drop things in directly into a folder off of your home computer, or you can create new documents within a folder. So what I'm suggesting that we do, since we're working on the Climate Smart Communities program, is to create a folder organization schema. And so what we're going to do is actually we're going to make a folder for each of the pledge elements. So as you know, on New York's Climate Smart Communities on the portal, there's different pledge elements. These are groups of actions. They're called PEs, pledge elements. So PE1, and then let's just actually open up the Climate Smart Communities, Climate Smart New York. Right. Okay. What we're doing with our folder organization is basically just mimicking this structure, okay? You could think of this, what we're doing on Google Drive is creating the same structure that mirrors what you see here on the portal, but on Google Drive, these are going to be your working documents, kind of like your staging area, where you and your task force are going to be working on drafting documents, pulling in PDFs of this or that documentation into your Google Drive. Once everything is ready and you're ready to actually move stuff over to the portal, it's all neatly and organized in your Google Drive, and you'll know exactly which action to then click into and upload your materials. So for instance, this first PE1 is called Build a Climate Smart Community. So that's what I'm going to title my new folder. And y'all who are following along, you can do this as well. PE1, Build a Climate Smart Community, and then create that folder. Click up here, see where there's sort of a, what do you call this? Like a navigation of the folders.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you can rename. What I just did is I right clicked on the folder and you can click rename. And you can rename it like that. Or if you click into the folder, then you'll see it will show up in these, I think they call these breadcrumbs. This kind of navigation is called breadcrumbs. And you can click in here and rename. So I just edited the name, took out that weird period I had in there, and voila. Okay. And then, so within, within that folder, we're doing our like Matryoshka dolls here, right? So now I'm in PE1, Build a Climate Smart Community. The first action, I'm going to create a new folder for that. That's PE1 action CSC task force. All right. Once you create this folder, this PE1 action CSC task force, you click into that folder. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you if you click into this on the portal, you open up that PDF that I mentioned at the orientation where it shows you what you need to submit.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you need to submit is a list of task force members. All right. So what I'm going to show you is how within this folder, we're going to create your list of task force members. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate how you could use Google Sheets to do that. So here we are, if we're just in this empty folder now. And then next we're going to do new, and we're actually going to go down to Google Sheets. We're going to click, and that's going to automatically generate a new Google Sheets document for you. So now if I refresh this page, my folder page, it should show the document show up in there in a minute. Now, first thing we're going to do is title the spreadsheet. We're going to call it task force members. All right. Again, if you want to change the name or title of your document, you can always just click right in and retype. All right. So that's how you title a document. This is kind of like your working roster. It's a living document. So as you all can see, if you're familiar with Excel, this is going to feel very familiar, right? You have your same kind of menus here and your kind of like word processing, Excel processing tools. It's the same idea where you have a series of rows and columns. And so let's go ahead and say, let's title the columns of our spreadsheet. We're going to have name, and then affiliation is the other thing that they want to know. Mm-hmm. So for example, I would have Gary Bassett, who is my mayor, right? And I would have Chantal Collins, who is a teacher and head of the environmental club at the school, right? This is one of my favorite tricks to teach people. You highlight that row 1 by clicking on it. So the whole row is highlighted. And then you go up to see view in the toolbar, view, and then freeze one row. Okay, so now if you have like a super long list with a lot of data in it, like let's just say your task force had like, 200 members, just as an example. What you can do now is you can scroll around and you will not lose sight of your header row, which is really nice.
That's great. Thanks, Vanessa.
So that's a nice little trick.
Yeah.
One other trick I'd like to show you while we're here in Google Sheets is if you're working on a budget or something and you have a bunch of numbers, you want to add them up to a sum. You highlight them like this, And then you see this little Greek letter. These are the formulas that are built in, similar to Excel again, where you can do functions and formulas. So one I just find I use a lot when I'm creating budgets for CSC is the sum. So you can see it's created like an Excel formula. You just hit return, and then this is your working sum.
Yes.
If you are working in split screen here,
Sure.
you probably have to expand the toolbar so you're able to see all the offerings. You know, a lot of the other tools are similar. You might be familiar with them. You know, you can change the color of the text. You can put in highlight the background colors. You can, you know, you can right center, left justified, right justified, or centered. You can sort by alphabetically with this little drop down here. Sort sheet A to Z or Z to A. I'm trying to think of like my most common uses. That's another one that you would want to have your header frozen at the top so that you can sort below without the header getting mixed up in the alphabetization. Say, you know, say it's January and Deb is ready to submit this for bronze, and say she had, you know, contact info in here, and she wanted to create a different copy of it. What you could do is, see how it says sheet on this little tab at the bottom here? You could do duplicate. Okay, so now you've got two of the same. And on the copy, you could just remove the contact, the contact information column.
Just
for
to,
example. Yeah. And then you could have a version of it that's clean. Okay. Basically, you have multiple spreadsheets collected together in these tabs down at the bottom. That's how you kind of navigate through. You know, imagine if this were a piece of paper, it's kind of like lifting up a piece of paper to reveal the one below. And you can drag and drop these in terms of their order, like which one is defaulting to the top. You can drag and slide them by controlling the tabs at the bottom. All right. If you want to create a fresh one, it's just this little plus, add sheet. You can double click in there and just rename it whatever, okay? So that's kind of like how you would navigate around multiple sheets on one Excel or Google Sheet workbook. I'm not going to get into like fancy stuff like inserting charts or like other formulas, just the basics here, okay? Okay, so let's say you have, let's just say, look at this. For each action, you can actually get these instructions as a PDF. So I'm back on the portal website, and I'm going to download this as a PDF. So let's call this PE1 task force. And I'm saving this as a PDF to my downloads on my hard drive. And now let's say another nice thing to do for everyone in your task force to be on the same page is to just have those PDFs stored in their corresponding folder on your drive. So now that I've downloaded this to my downloads folder on my crazy computer, I can just select that as a PDF. I can just drag and drop it into my Google Drive. Hopefully that worked. And you can do that for all sorts of files. I'm just showing you how to do it with a PDF. You could drag and drop images like photographs that you've downloaded to your computer that you want to get up and share with your task force. You can do it with Word documents, Excel. But this PDF, I'm uploading it now. You can see the little cloud with the arrow. It means I'm uploading it up to my drive, up to the cloud. The other way, if you're not comfortable with dragging and dropping, when you click on new, you can also upload a folder or a file from your desktop that prompts you to browse from your computer. Okay, so like here's a screenshot. Say you have to upload a screenshot of something. You can upload it through the new. So new is for creating documents from scratch on Google Drive or for uploading. Okay, next we're going to talk about sharing and privacy and security. Okay, so let's say you wanted to delegate something to your a member of your task force for them to work on one of these documents, and that will be their job. That's their task, right? The beauty of Google Docs is that you can share it with another person and you can see the live updates that they're making to it without waiting for them to like email it back to you. And you can both be working on the document at the same time. So again, no more digging through your emails to try to find where was that attachment or, oh gosh, these two people that were working on it sent me 2 different emails with 2 different attachments. I don't know which version to use. So it's going to save you a lot of time on like reconciling different versions. So I'm going to show you how to share a document now. So say you wanted to delegate this task force members list to someone on your task force for them to like gather everybody's email address or write down what their, affiliation is. See this big green button on the upper right? It says share. You click on that. And you can type in their email address. So let's say I want to share this with Paige. Okay, so here see that little notify people checkbox? If you unclick it, you're giving her permission to view this, but Google Drive will not send her an automated email sending her the link to access the file. So in my opinion, always a good idea if you're sharing something with somebody to notify them. You can type in a little message just to give them some context, like this is the task I want you to work on, right? Okay, and so here's an important part. If you want her to actually work on this and be able to make changes, you're going to give her editing permissions. She's an editor. If you wanted her to just take a look at it and give you feedback, you might want to make her a commenter, okay? And then she'll be allowed to put comments contextualized on this document to give you feedback. Or maybe you want her just to be able to see it, but not make any changes or futz with it. Okay, so that's kind of the hands-off option is viewer. All right, well, let's say we want her to be an editor. We can send her this notification and tell her you want her to work on it. The email that will go through to her will have a link to this Google Sheet. So it will say, Vanessa has given you editor permission of this Google Sheet. Click this link to access the Google Sheet, okay? So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it would be, again, select which status you want to give them, and then click on copy link. Okay, and then that link is copied, and you can go over to whatever your email browser is, and you could more manually send her a message like, here's that that sheet I want you to work on, right? And then you paste it in. I did just copy paste into your. So that's another way to kind of create a link to this very document that you want to share with her. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. So you would click send, and this auto generates an email out to her, or you can not notify them, and you can just copy the link and click share. And that way you've given her status. All right. The other thing to do here is say you want to just share this with the whole task force and you don't want to bother putting in all of their email addresses here. You would change the permissions, the general access to anyone with the link. And again, select whether you want them to be able to view, comment, or edit. So say you want the whole group to have access to this. Say you want to say to your task force, hey, everybody, go in, add your name, add your affiliation and your email address. Okay. You could just copy the link in that case and then share it with everyone on your task force, like so. You would email them all here. Or if you're at a meeting, you know, you share this link with them and then they all have access to it. Okay, so here's the thing that where we get into security and privacy issues. And this is an important point I want to make, which is that if you're working on climate smart communities, you are working on a municipal program. So don't think of these documents that you're creating as your private documents. These are government documents just by the nature of this program. So everything is, in theory, everything is public information, okay? You know, obviously you don't want to like blurt out everybody's email address to the world, but you know, don't be writing Google Docs where you're saying something that you wouldn't want others to see, I guess is what I'm saying. And I wouldn't be too concerned about like trying to make sure everything is totally locked down and private, because these are all going to be shared publicly, you know, via your certification filing. It's a public filing. So just keep that in mind as you're working on all these documents. These are all going to be, they should all be fit for public view eventually. You can also share whole folders. Let me show you how to do that. So here's your task force. See how here we are back in our breadcrumbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in your main folder. If you click this little arrow down, you get like a pop-up menu. And so you can share your whole folder with your task force. Again, if you want to do it this way, you would go anyone with a link, can be an editor. This is going to, as you can see, it says organize, add, or edit files within the folder. Okay, so say you want to just give editing privileges to your task force. This is a quick and easy way to give them the whole folder. Then you would copy the link and you would email it to your task force and say, okay, here you go, guys. Here's our shared folder. All right. So now I'm going to go back into this action. Okay. Another thing that is required of most actions when you submit is like a little narrative blurb, or for this one, for example, meeting minutes, and a copy of the resolution. So let's say we're going to do meeting minutes, and we're going to do it as a Google Doc. Okay, so Google Doc, remember, is like kind of like Word, Microsoft Word. So here we are in our folder. We're going to create a new Google Doc within this folder. So go up to New, click New, and then click Google Docs. Create and share. All right, so this is what a Google Doc looks like. First thing you want to do is say, like, this is my minutes meeting on the 16th of August, 2022. Okay. All right, so here we are again. This looks really similar to Microsoft Word, right? You've got all of your toolbars here for your word processing. It's should feel very familiar. What's going to feel not as familiar is the way that you can collaborate here, that you may not be familiar with when you're just working on your regular computer independently. Okay, so now let's say I'm taking minutes, and something happens at 5 p.m. He said this, and then at 5:30 we talked about that. Okay, so here are the minutes. Now let's say I wanted to share this with Paige because I wanted her to take another look at it, you know, before it's finalized and sign off on them. There's a few different ways that I can invite her to collaborate on this. So first I would go through that whole share flow, similar to what we did with the Google Sheet, where I'm going to share, let's say I'll just share it with Paige. Okay, here's the minutes doc. Please approve. Okay, so say I'm sharing it with her as an editor. So she'll be able to not just make comments or view it, but she'll actually be able to make edits on it. Let's say I send that to her. I would hit send. I'm not going to bother doing that right now just because we're just demoing this. Okay, so say I'm Paige and now I've opened up this document. There's a few different ways that me as Paige could collaborate with Vanessa on this document. I can either edit, just like straight up change things, like I'm going to change Vanessa's typo here, right? And that's just within this word processing, I've just made an edit. The other thing I can do is suggesting. So if you're familiar with Microsoft Word, you might know that suggesting is kind of like tracked changes. Okay. So I could say, well, I'm gonna actually show Vanessa my suggestions, and then she'll be able to accept them. So he said this was the way to go. Okay, so see how it shows up as a different color, and then when I click on the different color, it highlights it and it pulls up a comment. So I can, as Vanessa, now I can go in and see the changes that Paige has made. And then I can accept them if I approve of them. All right, so that's suggesting. And then there's editing where I can just go in and make changes. And just kind of I could overwrite Vanessa's work. I could make additions, etc. The third way that I could collaborate, Paige and Vanessa could collaborate on this document, is by adding a comment. So if you double click to select a word or a paragraph or whatever, how much text you want to comment on, then you'll see this little pop-up menu hovering. See how it's hovering over here? You can click to add comment, and I could say, which issue are you talking about, right? And I can leave that as a comment or a question. And then my collaborator can come back and see this and reply to me or resolve that issue in whatever way you've prompted. So those are kind of like, I guess that's 3 different ways of interacting with this text in a collaborative way. Now, something that I find people get really nervous about when they're transitioning from like a Microsoft Word environment to a Google Docs environment is they're worried that they're going to lose some changes, right? Or that they're going to not know what changes were made when and by whom. And if you're ever concerned about that, rest assured, because see how here it says last edit was whatever seconds ago? You can click on that and it's actually going to show you the whole version history. Okay, so you can see every change that was made and you can actually revert back. Okay. So don't be scared that you're going to lose work. You can always get back to it in that way. All right. That's this little here when it tells you when it was last edited. And so it can feel kind of spooky when you're first trying this, because say I invited Paige and she popped in, you would literally see her icon here, and you would know she was live in the document, and like you could see her like ghostly typing. So you will see text appear from your collaborators right in front of you simultaneously, which is pretty cool. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to show you is exporting and downloading. So say you wanted, you actually wanted a copy of this as a Word document that you would, email somewhere, or
Mhm.
You say it's finalized, it's ready to be uploaded to the CSC portal as a Word document or as a PDF. So how you do that is you go up to the file option in your menu here,
Mhm.
and then you go to download, and you can download a lot of different formats. Most common would probably be Microsoft Word or PDF. Okay, those are really the only ones that I use personally when it comes to Word documents. Yeah, on my computer, I've got desktop, I've got downloads. Some people's, it depends on your browser. Your browser, you can set whether you want downloads to go to a downloads folder or whether you want them to go to a desktop folder. That's up to you and your browser. I'm using Chrome. That's probably something that you set in your your preferences in Chrome or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, so you download it. If you ever can't find it, when I download from my browser, it defaults to downloading things to my downloads folder on your hard drive. What I would do is I would copy the title of the document and then just search on your computer. Do a search on your computer for, paste in the title of it and then search, and then it should pull up, in your downloads folder. All right, just a couple more things, and then we can take some more questions, and maybe I can show you some more stuff. But a couple things I wanted to show you that are kind of important. Let's say you make a new document. Let's just call this let's just call this test. All right, so say you're like, oh, I've been working on this new document, but shoot, I just made it in the wrong folder, and now I want to move it. Okay, so there's a couple ways to move things, a few different ways to move things. Let's say you want to just move it inside this folder. Okay, you highlight it so it's blue, and then you can drag and drop it like that. You see that on my screen, guys? Does everybody see that? Now let me double click into this folder and I'll show you where it's moved to. So now it's just placed within that folder, but God, now I want it in this folder. You could drag or drop it again, right? Or what you can do is actually go back to the open document and see this little icon up here with a folder with an arrow on it. That's to move it. Okay, so here's where you can select which folder you want to put it in.
Oh, and it'll drop
You
down.
can go all the way into the nest as deep as you want to go, and then click move here. You can also do it under the file menu, file, and then go down to move, and it's this same little pop-up menu. So you can move things in and out of folders that way. Okay. So that's how you do it. So yeah, you could go back to, use your breadcrumbs, go back to CSC Task Force, create a new document, a new folder, and call this PE2, right? And let's see, what's PE2 called? Ah, that's PE2 is inventory, emissions, set goals, right? And say you wanted to start working on that, you could start creating a folder for each of the actions in P2. Say, oh yeah, we're gonna work on the government operations greenhouse. You can also, you know, through here, you can create a new folder. You know, say you're working on your greenhouse gas inventory, you know, here you are in your greenhouse gas inventory. And this, you don't want it just saved right here in your greenhouse gas inventory folder. You want to create an additional folder that's going to be like electricity bills or whatever, you know, I'm just making this up. You can create a new folder and then place a document within that. You know, submit a copy of the inventory report, you know, provide evidence. The report was, maybe there's a screenshot of where the report was published on your website. So that's sort of all those materials that your working documents as you work on these actions live in their appropriate folder. If you want to create like another subfolder within another folder. Yeah, I mean, another thing that I just, while we're here, a couple more tips that I like to use. When I'm creating like a report or something, formatting can be really nice to make you want to make your documents generally like scannable for readers. So if you highlight title and go up into format, you can do paragraph styles. So this could be, you know, title and format, paragraph styles. Let's say subtitle. And let's just say that's regular text. Okay, so this looks better if you're creating a report, you know. But the other cool thing is when you use these paragraph, again, it's format, paragraph styles. Then if you click on this little icon over here, it automatically generates like, what do you call this? A document outline. So say you have like an 80-page report that you're working on, blah, 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 blah. And then chapter 2, and you want to be able to quickly like navigate throughout chapters in your document, in a long document. This is going to be really just a nice way to kind of bookmark you through a larger document, as well as having a more pleasing, visually organized way of formatting a document. So that's something that I often use when using docs. Just a nice little add-on. You don't have to. You can tuck it away if you're not interested in that. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Vanessa,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.